Hello and welcome to SoapboxTonight, where the coffee's hot, the tates are hotter, and the goal, if you can call it a goal, is to make just a little bit of sense before bedtime. Now, if you caught me over the weekend, you already know on Soapbox Sunday we went into the depths of the story of Jonah, a man who ran from his calling and found himself plunged into chaos until he revealed his light. Now, tonight we'll stick a little closer to shore. We're going to talk about change. The kind of change that sneaks up on you until the world you remember starts to feel like someone else's dream. On Soapbox Saturday this past weekend as well, I was cleaning a shelf and listening to my workout playlist. Yes, that's right, you heard me right, my workout playlist. And for those of you who I know what you're saying, and yes, I do occasionally lift something heavier than a coffee mug. But anyway, in my playlist, right between Eye of the Tiger and Lose Yourself, my playlist hits me with the Judds. Grandpa, to be specific. Now, gotta tell you, if you don't have the Judds on your play out work list, put it on there now. The Judds will work your heart in ways no treadmill can. Every course is a set of squats for your conscience. The song Grandpa isn't just nostalgia, it's an anthropology. They're asking, did families really bow their heads to pray? Did daddies really never go away? It's not just lyrics, it's a cultural audit. It highlights today the dinner table that sits empty, the homes where phones grow brighter than faces. What is needed isn't a revolution from the top down, and the Judds knew this. Listen to the song. What is needed isn't a revolution from the top down, but a restoration from the bottom up. One home, one prayer, one kitchen table at a time. You want to save civilization? Forget about the think tanks. Try the kitchen table with just a prayer and a pot roast. And one burning question. Can we still make the good old days? Or are we too busy tweeting about how much we miss them? So since we're on the topic of social media, and I'm not on social media much, I'm one of those people. I saw a post pop up posing the question, if John F. Kennedy was alive today, would he be a Democrat or Republican? I thought this was a good question to ask, and it really got me thinking. It got me thinking on what we know about Kennedy on issues of civil rights, although I don't think Kennedy's stances on civil rights back then were based on the same things that some people's stances would be today. I guess what I'm saying is it's not the same civil rights today as it was back then. But also Kennedy's issues on education, his issues on welfare, his issues on government involvement in poverty, his issues on reduction, his issues on immigration. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, I see what happened there. It's his policies, his issues on policies of government involvement in poverty reduction, not government involvement in poverty. I'm sorry. Apparently, I misplaced a comma there. Anyway, all those things, they kind of line up closely with the modern Democratic Party. We can't really deny that. Kennedy did seem strong, however, on national defense and national security. This would possibly, put him in line with the Republicans today. And we might also assume, although there's nothing directly telling us such, but we might assume that he would be somewhat conservative socially, given the era that he was in and his given religion. And as you read or listen to Kennedy, underneath Kennedy's words, the weight and the discipline behind his words was a sense that America is supposed to be something noble. Maybe not something perfect, but something aspiring. I thought about that, and then my mind started to shift because I had scrolled down to the comment section. And I actually found a gem of a comment under the original post. That comment read something like this: if a Democrat from the 1960s came to today, he'd be a Republican. If a Democrat from today went back to the 1960s, he'd be put in an asylum. It's a line you laugh at first, and then you kind of don't because there's a seed of something real in it. We watch the meanings of words like liberal, conservative, moderate, sane get twisted and blurred. It hasn't been an overnight change. It's more a constant shifting of the goalpost, and quite oftentimes by design. JFK believed in a strong America, in personal responsibility, in civic duty, and in faith. And he famously said, "Ask not what your country can do for you, ask what you can do for your country." Just in case for the few of you who have maybe never heard that line before, I'm going to go ahead and repeat it. JFK was famous for saying, "Ask not what your country can do for you, but ask what you can do for your country." And the bottom line is this. Today, that same line that Kennedy is so well known for, that same line about your personal role in the bigger picture, that same line would get Kennedy heckled and mocked by his own party today. We've replaced public service with self-expression and politics with therapy. But as history keeps proving time and time again, nations aren't built on feelings, they're built on conviction. Nations aren't built on feelings, they're built on conviction. And sometimes they're built on remembering who we used to be. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I must confess we are going a little bit off script here, and I mean that literally because there's a gaping hole in my script, just a single page of paper saying, "Insert Tommy Robinson article here." Well, like many of you, I imagine, I do have a life beyond this, not much of one. I do try to, get my hour of sleep a day and do a couple other things. And I was in the middle of writing a piece regarding Tommy Robinson, all that's going on in the UK with him, how this affects free speech broader. And we'll try to get to that in a week or two. But I'm going to go ahead and let you know what happened. And that's, well, I got busy talking with family. We got busy telling a stupid story together, entirely made up, just jabbering back and forth and talking around the kitchen table. Maybe that was a little more important. But ladies and gentlemen, since I am a professional, even if maybe a retired professional now, because I'm professional, I didn't want to leave this page totally blank. So I decided we'd start a new segment, maybe the only time, maybe not. This will be wisdom from kids from the internet. Because you see, after this storytelling session that my family had, my wife shows me a quick clip on something she was watching. I don't even know which platform it was on. I found it absolutely adorable and so full of truth. So this father was speaking with his very young daughter, and well, to give you a little backstory, I'm assuming from this that the dad must have given some presents to the mom in the past, and the mom probably talks around the kid or even to the kid. So the kid, in an adorable way that only a little kid could, tells him, mommy said the next time you give her a bad present, you give her any more bad presents, she's gonna burn them. In the way only a little kid can get away with saying. So the dad is chuckling. He goes, "Really? She's going to burn them?" Kid goes, "Yeah." Kid goes, "I've been thinking about that." Dad goes, "Yeah, what were you thinking?" Little kid goes, "Well, why don't you get her a candle?" All right. And so we're going to move right along from there. You know, it kind of reminds me of how there used to be the old TV shows about all the, what do they call it? Just the craziest things that kids would say or something like that. I don't really remember. We're going to move on now to one of my favorite segments, Constitutional Tidbits. So, when it comes to state constitutions, most states have gone through several versions, rewriting, replacing, or patching them over the years, but a few have held on to theirs for centuries. The oldest state constitution still in force is that of Massachusetts, adopted in 1780. It is drafted primarily by John Adams and remains the world's oldest functioning written constitution. Though it's been amended more than 120 times, the original framework still stands. By contrast, the newest state constitution belongs to Alabama. That's right, Alabama. Roll Tide. Alabama officially adopted a recompiled constitution in 2022. Now, this is not a brand new rewriting of a constitution, but a thorough reorganization and modernization of the 1901 Constitution. I can only imagine that their new constitution is written in the form of a sequence of tweets. You know what I'm saying? No article longer than 120 characters in the age we live in now. Back to the serious point, the new version removed some language, consolidated repetitive sections, and renumbered amendments for clarity. Now, for comparison, Wisconsin's Constitution, 1848, Ohio's 1851, those are also amongst the oldest. They're still active without replacement. And, of course, on the other end, like we learned last week, Louisiana has rewritten theirs 11 times. From John Adams' Inkling Quill in Boston to Alabama's digital cleanup in 2022, the story of our state constitution says a lot about who we are. Some of us like to preserve tradition, and some of us just like hitting refresh. That's your constitutional tidbit for the week. Stick around because next time we're diving into the strange side of state constitutions. I'm talking about the weird, the funny, and the downright head-scratching clauses still on the books today. Ever wonder which state technically bans duels? Well, next week, you don't want to miss it. Okay, so ladies and gentlemen, a quick look at the clock, and by clock I mean meter. It seems we are almost out of time. You see, I am happy to announce there's a little bit of an announcement to make here. We are no longer relegated to the studio closet. That's right, I can hear you cheering right now. I know I'm cheering on the inside. But we are no longer in the closet of the studio. However, we are still recording on a potato. But we are out of the studio closet, and we're now recording in my car. Let me explain. Short answer is I'm no longer allowed in the studio or the building due to an incident involving the sauce of one enchilada and the poodle of one unnamed socialite. So our time is now almost up on the parking lot meter, so let's get straight to the roundup. Headline Roundup is your quick spin through headlines you just might have missed but probably shouldn't have. Brought to you by BB's Pager Emporium, home of the explosively good deals. All right, headline number 1. So this case has been stirring debate all week. We have a man who was convicted of murder 7 years ago or so, released after serving only 7 years of a prison sentence for murder. If I'm remembering this as the right case, I read about several while I'm trying to prepare here. I believe it was a 6-year-old child repeatedly stabbed. Somebody would have to double check me on this or not, but I believe that he stabbed him so hard that he bent the blade of the knife he was using. So somebody else can verify that for me, hopefully. But this man's case has been reversed. And this reversal has reopened old questions about justice, due process, and how the system weighs remorse against evidence. Next headline you may or may not have seen. We've had quite the story out of the school system. A school bus driver was arrested. This is either in the last week or 2 weeks while transporting students on a field trip. I remember hearing about this one like the day after it happened. At the time it was being reported, she had something like 17 different prescriptions in her possession. I don't recall any other details. I don't recall if they ever said anything about what she was charged with, anything like that. You might want to look that one up. School bus driver arrested while transporting students on field trip. And finally, a quick look at some other stories that deserve more than just a scroll, even though that's essentially what we're doing here, isn't it? Just giving them a scroll. But go back yourself, look at them later, educate yourself. The investigation into the judge's house fire continues. Oh boy, not very much time left on the meter. So, judge's house was on fire. The investigation continues. I'm assuming the house is no longer on fire. Just the investigation continues, not the fire itself continues. Early reports suggest accidental causes. Final findings are not yet made public. And finally, a handful of economic indicators this week point to mild consumer optimism and even milder political spin. So, thank you, ladies and gentlemen. That's Soapbox Tonight for this week. A little bit of history, a little outrage, and just a very little hope. Now, next week, we wade deeper into the question of what sanity means in a world that keeps redefining truth, and why every generation thinks it's the one that's finally right. Until then, catch me this weekend on Soapbox Saturday. I'm back with another story, probably about the kind of mess you can't clean up with a sponge. And on Soapbox Sunday, a closer look at the church, not just as an institution, but as an anchor in a drifting age. Until then, good night, good sense, and God willing, see you next time.